Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So today's Break the Bank is going to be keeping the fire burning, or more so, keeping the mana burning. That makes sense? Anyways, if you haven't seen the Yurlok deck tech, make sure that you check that out first, because this episode really doesn't make a whole lot of sense without that. I'm going to be talking about upgrading that deck, and obviously you probably need to see what that deck was first to know what upgrade should be going in it, and so on and so forth. So yeah, go and check that out first if you haven't yet. If you have seen that episode, then you're in the right place and stick around. But anyways, like that episode, today's episode comes to you courtesy of Patrick, who's been supporting this channel as a Golden Pig tier patron, and I really couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like Patrick, so thank you so much, Patrick. So again, Yurlok is all about mana burn. Yurlok wants to punish our opponents essentially for not being able to spend mana, so we need ways to put our opponents into tough no-win positions, essentially where they have to tap their lands, or they have, no choice to, or they've got nothing to spend it on. Basically, we need to punish our opponents and just put them into no-win situations where they're going to be burning mana. Yeah, so that's basically what the deck's going to be doing. And when it comes to upgrading this deck, we want to focus on a couple of things. And of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Every single deck tech needs to be upgraded now with Wayfarer's Bauble because it is still expensive. It is a $3 card now. I guess when I say expensive, I mean outside of budget limitations. It is a $3 card now, $3 to $4 card now. There is some hope that it might be reprinted in Commander Legends too, so we'll see if that actually happens. But yeah, okay, Wayfarer's Bauble. Of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Next up, let's talk about Lightning Greaves, an artifact equipment that costs 2. So this equipped creature has haste and shroud, and it's got equip 0. This is a fantastic card in this deck for 2 reasons. First off, Yurlok obviously has a tap ability, basically a mana dork. We have to pay 1 into end tap, but this allows us to tap Yurlok right away as long as we've got that 1 mana to activate Yurlok, and on top of that, it protects Yurlok with Shroud. Now, Shroud means we can't really target Yurlok with anything else, but we're probably not going to be targeting with too many things in this deck. We do have some things that can target to untap or whatnot, but this is usually going to be worth equipping, especially early, to get Yurlok out there to help ramp us even quicker as long as we get that extra mana again, and then also to protect Yurlok, which again, this deck heavily revolves around. Speaking of untapping Yurlok, we do, I guess this ironically, we do have a card right here with Mage Right Stone that does untap and target Yurlok, so obviously a non-bow without Lightning Greaves. Anyways, Mage Right Stone is an artifact that costs 2. Pay 1 to tap to untap target creature has an activated ability with tap in its cost. Yurlok does have that. Basically, again, this is just, okay, we pay 1 to tap Yurlok the first time, adding 3 mana to our mana pool. We utilize 1 of that mana, and then we can tap Yurlok again. So basically, this gives us 2 activations of Yurlok. We're going to be generating 5 mana from Yurlok, or I guess essentially 4 mana from Yurlok, not counting all the things that we're paying into it. Anyways, and then our opponents are going to be getting 6 mana, which again, if they can't use it on anything, they're going to be mana burning with that. Next up, there's Quest for Renewal, which is an enchantment that costs 1 and a green. It says whenever a creature you control becomes tapped, you may put a quest counter on Quest for Renewal. As long as there are 4 or more quest counters on Quest for Renewal, untap all creatures you control during each other player's untap step. So this allows us to use Yurlok every single turn of the game, not just on our turns as well. And speaking of that, we're of course going to be adding in Seedborn Muse, which luckily was reprinted recently and has definitely gone down in price. I believe it was in the 20s at one point. Now it's down around, I believe, 5 or so we can squeeze it into this Break the Bank. She is a 2/4 spirit that has untap all permanents you control during each other player's untap step. So now we untap all of our lands as well, and Yurlok, so yeah, we can definitely get a lot of use out of this. Can really help us cast spells on opponents' turns and yeah, do some pretty crazy things. Next up, let's talk about some punishing cards that we definitely want to add into this deck with Citadel of Pain and Tectonic Instability. First off, I just want to say that these types of cards that are kind of punishing that work really well with Yurlok definitely spiked a ton in price. These are older cards that don't really have that big of print runs. I believe, so that's why their prices just immediately skyrocketed when Yurlok was spoiled. Anyways, Citadel of Pain is an enchantment that costs 2 and a red. Says at the end of each player's turn, Citadel of Pain deals X damage to that player, where X is the number of untapped lands they control. So this basically says, hey, you're going to be taking damage one way or the other. Are you going to be tapping your lands and taking mana burn, or are you going to be keeping your lands untapped and taking a lot of damage from Citadel of Pain? This card is an absolute nightmare when it comes to control decks trying to work around it, because control decks tend to like to keep their mana up and ready, and this says, yeah, go for it if you want to take a lot of damage. Tectonic Instability is another one that can be fantastic in this deck, an enchantment for 2 and a red. Whenever a land comes into play, tap all lands its controller controls. So if they're playing a land for the turn, or ramping, or using a fetch land, yep, they're going to be having to tap all their lands. And again, if they're going to have unspent mana, which they most likely will, they're going to be taking mana burn thanks to our commander. So yeah, both these enchantments are fantastic in this deck, can be incredibly punishing again, can really help us shut down control strategies, and yeah, just make our opponents have some really tough decisions and take a lot of burn or damage. Wound Reflection is definitely another card that we want to add to this deck. And again, like Seaborn Muse, it has seen a recent reprint and its price went down quite a bit. Again, I think from 20 or 30 down to 5. Enchantment for 5 in a black. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. This essentially just says, hey, you know how much life you already lost this turn, opponents? You're losing it again. So did you mana burn? But now you're basically double mana burning, essentially. So yeah, this basically makes it so that our opponents are really feeling the pain from every single thing that we are doing to make sure that they are being punished for not spending their resources correctly. So this can really make our opponents feel the burn, essentially doubles up that mana burn, and yeah, can really speed up that kill clock on our opponents and just take them out a lot quicker. And of course, with an upgraded budget, we also want to look to upgrading some of our lands with cards like Dragonskull Summit, Rootbound Crag, and Woodland Cemetery, which all essentially do the exact same thing but have 2 different color combinations. Each of them enters the battlefield tapped unless we control one of 2 kinds of lands. Dragonskull Summit is a swamp or a mountain, Rootbound Crag is a mountain or forest, and Woodland Cemetery is a swamp or a forest. So essentially, these are dual lands that can come into play tapped and can really help us out and basically, yeah, speed up the deck instead of some of those lands that just always come into play tapped, which we're going to be taking out for these. We're also going to add in Cinderglade and Smoldering Marsh, which again are somewhat similar. Each are going to enter the battlefield tapped unless we control 2 or more basic lands. So in a similar way, can basically be a dual land that does come into play tapped in a good amount of scenarios. So these can definitely, again, speed up our deck and make sure that we're not just putting in tap lands all the time. So again, when it comes to upgrading this deck, some things that we want to focus on are ways to speed up the kill clock on our opponents, punish our opponents more, untap Yurlok more often, and then, yeah, upgrade our mana base as well. And yeah, there are, of course, a lot of great cards you consider when upgrading this deck. But yeah, if you want to see the deck list, the upgraded deck list, go ahead and check that out in the description below. And while you're at it, why don't you comment and let me know, what cards would you consider first for upgrading a deck like this? What are the most important upgrades to consider for Yurlok? So yeah, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks again and have a good one.